and welcome to Mindscapes, our series of conversations with men and women whose ideas, vision and philosophy define our contemporary world. My guest today is one of the senior statesmen, the legends of Indian business. He's had a long and distinguished career, not just at the helm of one of India's leading business families, but as a philanthropist, educationist, and most recently, currently, as the chairperson of the Family Planning Foundation. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Bharat Ram. Dr. Bharat Ram, you walked in to the studios here at a speed that I could barely keep up with. You're 87 years old. What is the secret of this youth that you still radiate?
You know, that's a question many people have asked me, and I haven't been able to find, shall we say, a medical answer to it. But I think I attribute it perhaps to two things. One, that I've been a sportsman all my life, right from childhood. I played hockey. I played hockey with Dhyan Chand, you know, that famous, legendary player. In 1934-35, I played with him. I played tennis. I played cricket.
You play golf 6 days a week?
I was the captain of my college in cricket, and after all that I started golf, and now I'm playing golf. So sports could be one of the things, and eventually really it's God.
Do you believe in God? Is that a part of your daily process, worship?
Very difficult, really. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It's one of those things. And I'm not quite sure whether I believe in formal God. I don't go to a temple, but I do believe that the purpose of life is to be good to people. And so it's really a philosophy, and that's what really I feel very happy about, is that I don't really believe in formal religion either.
You know, you've just mentioned about the importance of being good to people. You have run a successful business enterprise, a series of successful business enterprises. To what degree has that concern for the other person, you think, been diluted, been changed by the imperatives of the new businesses, the new ways of doing business, the globalization that we see? You know, we see a new culture, in a sense, of hire and fire, of the individual as a commodity. To what degrees have you been able to reconcile these?
Well, let me say, my philosophy and my father's philosophy, really, which I would say I inherited, was in industry to consider labor not just as a commodity, but as a part of an enterprise, to think of human beings and the labor to be really much more than just employees. And that is why our old company DCM was known for its what they call the labor welfare activities. We were the first in many areas of starting new things for labor, like even Provident Fund. We started Provident Fund in 1942 when it wasn't known it wasn't popular anywhere in the country. The law came much later. Similarly, there were a lot of things. So this was a part of the philosophy of being not only industrialist, but really be consider labor as really an important element and important human being.
How sustainable do you think that is in today's environment?
Well, I don't know. You know, I really personally think that today that whole atmosphere has changed. The sense of values have changed so completely, and I feel really sometimes out of place in this whole atmosphere is completely different to what it used to be when I was actively involved in business. I suppose this is a sign of time, and we cannot escape what is happening in the rest of the world with all the means of communication and so on. So I take it as a part of life. And so over centuries things have changed, over thousands of years things have changed, and they will continue to change. So I take it very philosophically.
You're not actively involved in business, but one of your passions is the Family Planning Foundation, which you've been involved with for several years, first with J.R.D. Tata, and you now chair this organization. How difficult is the task? The popular perception is that we were terribly set back from the excesses of the emergency, even though that was more than 20 years ago. What are some of the major challenges that you now face?
Well, you know, I was involved mentally. I was involved in the family planning for many years, maybe 50, 60 years, or maybe even more, when I was in my own company. And we started the family planning in our own company. It's very interesting, with regard to the family planning, I even mentioned to Panditji once in 1957 or 58. I went to meet him and I told him that, Panditji, you have failed the country in not giving importance to family planning, because I don't think your concept of saying what is the problem, if we have one mouth, we have two hands, that just won't work. And well, I don't know how much effect it has, but it's a very interesting thing. You know, people talk of what happened at the time of Sanjay Gandhi. I have a feeling maybe I was responsible to some extent, that the importance was given to family planning by Sanjay Gandhi and Mrs. Gandhi, but maybe it was badly administered. You know, in 1975, when the emergency came, I was in England and I was very disturbed, and I came back to India and I decided to meet Mrs. Gandhi. And while I was going in the car, I started to think, what am I going to talk to her? Not just say, hello, how do you do, and how are things, and so on. So I considered 2 or 3 things which I thought I would mention to her. And when I went to see her, one of the things I mentioned was about population problem. And I said, look, there is this Jansang in those days. They have mentioned to me once and twice that if we have family planning, the Muslims won't do it because they say that it's against their religion. And then maybe after 50 years or 100 years, it will become a Muslim state if the Hindus start doing it. But it is very necessary that we do have family planning. You know, the 2 days after that, our president, what was his name, Fakhruddin Ahmad, made a statement that there is nothing wrong, nothing in the Muslim religion which is against family planning. So maybe I felt that maybe my talk to Mrs. Gandhi may have had something to do with it, because it happened 2 days after I talked to her. And then Sanjay Gandhi started this family planning thing. It's unfortunate that it failed, but I think his idea was, according to me, his idea was not bad. So I think family planning, and that keeps me busy now.
So what is the sort of the blueprint that you now recommend, that the foundation recommends to approach this problem?
Well, you know, it's not just one blueprint. There are so many things, because family planning really, basically, wherever, even in our own country, wherever education is high, wherever the status of women is high. Take in South India, where the women's status is much higher than in North India, where the standard of education is much higher than it is in North India. The family planning has succeeded. Not only that, but in Goa and Kerala, it's become what really it should be. So that's the thing. And now our concentration, my concentration, has been very largely to convince people on the importance of it. And I think our foundation has had very positive effect on this, because the Parliament has also finally passed a resolution on family planning, and they have now set up also an organization and so on. So I think it's moving. Unfortunately, It's in some of the northern states, what are called the Bimaru states, the Rajasthan and UP, Bihar, and Madhya Pradesh. These are the states which are really causing more problems. And I've always maintained that really all the evils that we have in the country, all the problems that we have in the country, whether they are economic, social, and any problem, are attributable to the fact that we have not been able to control our population.
As you said, it really is more complex than just actually planning a family or using contraception or specific techniques to limit the family. It's a larger multi-sectoral approach. So what is it that the Family Planning Foundation does? What does it focus on?
Family planning doesn't focus on any one thing. Family planning is Family Planning Foundation, because after all it's a non-governmental organization. We don't have thousands of crores of rupees which are required. Although we do spend a crore and a half of rupees on our programs, but by and large we are helping others to do it. We are telling them what to do, how to do, but we are not able to do everything ourselves. For example, we think that panchayats are very important in the matter of family planning programs, and therefore in Haryana we have trained every panchayat, and there are thousands of the panchayats. Family Planning Foundation has trained them all in not only family planning, but in every part of living and the responsibilities of panchayat. We have done that, and it cost us nearly 12 crores of rupees to train every panchayat. So these are some of the things which we do, because action has to be taken by the states. And the fact that these 4 states are backward in this area is because the states have not really taken as much interest in education and in medical attention, and in particularly with regard to the girls. So anyhow, this keeps me busy.
In an area, well, it's not all that you do. You're also sort of very active in the field of education. You know, you're chairperson of the governing board of several educational institutions. How have you responded to the changing emphasis on the funding and the management of educational institutions?
Well, you know, my view is this, that up to a point, it is the government's responsibility, and the government should fund education, let us say till matriculation or till higher secondary education and so on. But beyond that, the government should fund only up to a small amount, maybe, for the very weak members of the society. But after that, really, people must pay for their education. I don't think that education should be made cheap. It's not. It can't be done. And the reason why education is not developing so well here is because the people are not prepared to pay. They will have to pay. I mean, it's something you can't get free.
Is that the direction that you see for your own educational institutions?
It's not happening, but it must happen. It will happen. I'm quite sure. Well, you know, for example, now the IITs and the IIMs are being charging the students, and the students are paying for what they are getting. So I think it will have to happen.
So what are you saying to people like the Ministry of Education and the University Grants Commission that are cutting back on the support of the institutions that you manage?
I think it's I just don't know what to do in this matter, because, you know, I'm connected with a few colleges in Delhi, and they are all having the problem of funding and so on. So, and here is a case where neither the government is ready to provide the funds required, nor is it ready to permit the colleges to increase the fees of the students and so on. You should be surprised that the students, as far as the college fees are concerned, they are paying the same as I was paying 60 years ago 65 years ago. So it's really, I mean, I don't see how to manage, how to deal with this situation.
Your legacy and your inheritance have both been one of enormous philanthropy. And in what ways do you see the nature of philanthropy changing? It seems to be much more commercially directed now.
No, as far as the colleges with which I'm connected, we'll somehow manage it. I mean, well, maybe some companies may have to do the financing and so on beyond what the individual can pay.
But I also meant in the larger sense of philanthropy, and not just the educational institutions. You've had, the family has supported so many institutions of art, of culture.
We have concentrated very largely. One cannot, if one becomes philanthropic in many areas and so on, then it gets diffused. But I think our family has concentrated very largely on education and on art and culture. So, we have these two well-known centers of art. One is the Bharatiya Kala Kendra, the other is the Shriram Institute of Art and Culture. So these two are there, and then we have the colleges. New schools have been started also. SRF has started new schools. So our concentration is on, by and large, on education.
What is the driving force, the impetus for philanthropy? Is it, as you said earlier, to do good, or as is now increasingly the case with many commercial institutions and establishments, that it also seems like it's good business?
All I can say is as long as I'm alive, it won't be that. It won't be, it has nothing to do with business. None of the education, none of the schools or colleges with which we are involved is a commercial proposition in any sense, nor do I think it will happen.
You've had a ringside view of India over a period of, you're 87 years old. You watched India unfolding post-independence. In what ways do you find satisfaction in the way India has unfolded? In some ways, it's easier to look at the things that aren't working, and we talk about that every day. But what are the elements that you feel are happening that hold portents of the future?
Well, really speaking, I wouldn't say that I'm very happy with the progress which we have made. We could have made much better progress, but then one can always say about anything that it could have been better. No, I think that's not enough. I think we have failed in making use of our resources. In fact, in 1958 or 59, Panditji was very close to me. I was very much younger, and yet he was very close to our family. He was very friendly with us, and so on. I could go and meet him any time I liked, and I did meet him once. And I told him, Panditji, I think there are a lot of things which you, who have received so much love from the people, who have received so much power from the people, have not made use of all that. You have created a psychology where it is all rights and no responsibility. I was talking to him about labor laws and various things, and I still say that the biggest, one of the biggest mistakes, apart from the population problem which I talked about, was that we did not create an atmosphere of discipline. And that is what our problem is even now. And I'm convinced in my mind, we talk of China and we talk of other countries, and we want to have, in business I understand we want to have higher duties against Chinese goods and so on and so forth. How long will we do that? Unless and until we are going to make our economy to be competitive in the world, which we can. There is no use our just talking about protection and talking about these things. We need it for some time. But we must take steps that we do become competitive. And the only thing I can think of is that we have to have discipline and hard work. There is no substitute for discipline and hard work. That's all.
And what does the government do? What might Panditji have done to cultivate discipline and hard work?
Because today any government job is much more difficult than what it was at the time of Panditji. If Panditji had said, this is not day, this is night, people would have believed it. This is what I mean by saying that it is that he had some responsibility. He was a great man, we all loved him and so on, but there were certain things which I think should have been done.
What were these qualities of greatness that you saw
His
in
greatness,
Panditji?
he was a human being. His greatness was that he just was great, that's all. He was a great human being. Little things really affected him like a child really he was. He was really great.
You've had the ear and you've had the access to so many great men of India able to formulate an impact policy. If you were able to advise the Prime Minister and you felt reasonably assured that he would listen and act upon what you were saying, what would you say to him?
Well, I would say the same thing as I said earlier, that really it is for them to create laws whereby there would be discipline and there would be hard work. Now, one or two things which can be done is that good work must be recognized. We must pay a person better if he has done good work. On the other hand, we must punish somebody who hasn't done good work, who neglects his work and so on. Now, unless that is done, it just can't. We have brilliant minds. And yet we just can't get on. And see what's happening in the Parliament. What is the discipline in the Parliament?
Do you sometimes feel frustrated and angry, or do you just feel a sense of surrender?
Well, I used to feel very angry. Now I only feel sad. Let me say very frankly, now I only feel sad because, now how many more years am I going to live? And whenever I'm discussing with younger people, I said, look, I'm not going to suffer too long, but you may have to be suffering much longer than me if things go on the way they are going. Because today there is just no sense of values left. People talk of corruption, people talk of wrong things happening and so on, but I see it's happening in every part of society. This is happening, whether it's the businessman, whether it's the lawyer, whether it's the doctor, whether it's the politician, whether it's the bureaucrat, and one really just doesn't know. So, but I don't want to say I'm going to have sleepless night over it. I know it's not very good, but I just feel sad.
Mm-hmm.
That's
you
all.
mentioned sleepless nights. What is your secret for a good night's sleep?
I think perhaps one of the things is a clear conscience. And no, I think it just, I'm not bored with life, although I'm not in business anymore. I like gardening. I am very fond of roses. I'm the chairman of the Rose Society of India, and so I grow roses, I play golf, I play cards, so I'm quite happy.
Poets and so many people have written about the enormous appeal of roses. What is the appeal of a rose to you?
Well, I don't know. It's got beautiful form, it got beautiful colors, and I don't know. I think, and it's got nice scent also now. We have nice scented roses. We have.
Does it trigger a sort of an emotional, romantic response in you in some ways?
I don't know, but I love roses. That's all.
Uh-huh.
And I have once described my life as what would be is like life is like a rose. or life should be like a rose. It's beautiful when it's in a bud form. It's beautiful when it becomes a mature rose, and it's beautiful even when it is fading, and it's beautiful even when it dies. The rose is beautiful.
What about the thorns underneath?
You see the rose on the. I see the rose on the plant, and I've seen the same rose when it was a bud, when it was a good form, and then when it started dying, and when it died. At every stage, it had a beauty of its own.
When you look beyond the shores of India and through your entire career, even though your work was located largely within the confines of India, you always had a global vision. In what ways do you see India reconciling itself to this globalization?
No, I think India is doing fairly well, I would say. After all, there are a few companies which are global, where there is Ambani's are global, Tata's to some extent are global, Ranbaxy's are global, Bajaj, I don't know, but it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen.
More than the globalization of industry, the flow of influences. You talked about values, you talked about culture. India is integrating in its values and its culture with the rest of the world in many ways. Do you see that as something that is enriching, something that is detrimental to the fabric of Indian society?
I don't really know. I don't see too much there. I think it is so much of commercialization of thinking, really, that I don't see personally. Maybe I am not so much involved in this, the cultural activities and so on. I don't see. India's influence is there. India's influence is still strong, I would think.
You know, you've talked about the remaining years of your life, and that is surely not in your hands. What would you like to do, to achieve in the time that...
Well, you know, I'm not, I'd be very happy if I live 100 years or even more. I'm not bored with life. But my main concentration in the positive side for the country is the family planning program. Apart from that, I'm not doing anything. I don't have much interest in it.
What is it that you find exciting about life?
Life, my exciting is golf. My golf is exciting. My roses are the most exciting. The most exciting thing are my roses.
Dr. Bharat Ram, thank you very much. This has been a great thing. Thank you so much.